Okay, one more comment I want to make, and we can try to wrap this up.
Yeah.
What's the name of the woman that ran the camp? Do you get her name written down?
I don't know.
Becky something.
Becky.
Right,
We'll just say Becky. They're interviewing Becky in the car, and apparently she's asked about what she thinks about democracy.
Oh, yeah.
And she says, well, democracy is the finest form of government in this world.
Yeah.
But that's the problem. It's of this world. And she basically goes on to say, I'm going to have to paraphrase now, unless Matt's got it in his notes, that because democracy is of this world, it is therefore imperfect and destined to crumble and fail. And this, to me, was the most interesting insight that I got into this mindset from the entire film, because we're looking at a administration in power now which doesn't seem to have the slightest respect for our form of government. And I can just barely see the connection between what she's saying and the behavior of the Bush administration, because the democracy thing was just a tool to get us here. It's not perfect. It's not something to be preserved. It's something to be used in order to get us to the point where Jesus comes back.
Yes, and until we have a good enough man in the White House that we can get rid of that whole checks and balances thing, because it's not necessary anymore.
They think they've got a good man in the White House. They went out at great length about that, too.
That was one thing that I wanted to...
They prayed to him.
No, they prayed for him.
It looked to me like they were praying to him.
No, they were praying for him. I've heard people make that same claim, and I watched specifically for that because I heard about it before the movie. They weren't praying to the cardboard cutout or to President Bush.
Yes,
but they were like on
important.
their knees in front of him and touching.
Yes, but Russell.
The thing that you're not understanding is that that's essentially the laying on hands of we're going to push God's power through us to you.
And it's important to get these kinds of details correct when we're criticizing it, because you make any kind of minor misstep in criticizing the film, and that will be seized upon by Christians as a reason to not listen to anything else that you say.
You're right.
But it doesn't alleviate the absurdity of them on their knees putting their hands out to touch a cardboard cutout, regardless of what their intent was.
Right.
It's like a Bush voodoo doll.
Yeah. In some ways, yes. It was a proxy. It was laying on hands by proxy.
All
but
magic spells.
One thing she had said during the interview, that the second she said it, I mean, there were a number of gasps and laughs and comments from the audience during the movie, from people. I don't know how many people there were actually religious, because I didn't hear a lot of amens, but there were I think most of the people there were more like us and going, holy crap, what the hell's going on here? The comment she made towards the end was, I'm not going after kids politically.
What?
And the word
lie.
I heard 10 or 15 people just say, you lying bitch. Because, I mean, how can you say that when you get them to camp, you've got a cardboard cutout of Bush and an American flag, and you're talking about the homosexual agenda and the global warming agenda and the abortion agenda, and you're pumping out, as Ted pointed out, little fundy extremist Republicans.
And one of her, I don't know what to call these people, instructors, preachers, teachers, indoctrinators, I don't know what to call them. One of the creepy guys that was a camp counselor at one point says to one of the kids, as he pats him on the head after taking communion or whatever the fuck they were doing, says, you may turn out to be the next state senator or somebody, right?
That's right.
They were literally saying shit like that to these kids.
Yeah.
You could be ruling the government one day.
Something to that effect. Yeah. So
if they remain complacent, that may be the case.
So basically, I think that the big message there is just don't believe them when they claim to have no ulterior motives. That's just a freaking lie. Watch what they actually do, not what they say.
I believe the movie was partially produced by one of the Air America radio hosts, Mike Papantonio.
But he did
who
appear
was, yes,
in
he
the
was,
film.
But, I mean, I've heard enough talk about it on Air America that
Yeah.
I'm led to believe that he was one of the movers behind getting the movie done in the first place.
Okay.
And he appeared several times in the movie, giving his sort of in-between commentary type stuff. Not very often. So I think it's clear that the movie was in general directed at people like us. On the other hand, I've also heard that the people behind Jesus Camp, the actual camp, have seen this movie and are very pleased and satisfied with it.
Right, because they are irony immune.
I think that there's that, and also we didn't see any of the more egregious behaviors that have been reported from inside camps like this. And so I'm sort of the impression that the crew agreed to have their access limited.
You think so?
But I think so. And either that or this is an especially nice one, or else the kids that come back from these camps talking about, sleep deprivation and things like that are just liars.
Don't go in that room. That has the waterboards and the stuff for the stress positions.